Welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I'm the Fat Guy. Most people call me Brett. So glad you decided to join today. If you are just curious about a ketogenic lifestyle, way of eating, or maybe you've been keto a while, or I don't know, maybe you're researching it for somebody else, I'm very glad that you're here. Who am I? I'm a guy that's been fat my whole life since, I don't know, it was 4 when I started gaining weight or something. Just was very young. Just kept growing. Just every year, there was never a year that I didn't weigh more than I did the year before. So you may can relate to that. Knowing what I know now, I know that I had some metabolic issues, probably inherited. Now that I understand insulin resistance and all that, and I see how the weight came. I mean, I had what you call a spare tire when I was by the time I was 10 or 12. I was a big spare tire. So I was like normal sized everywhere, except I had this huge spare tire belly, which is a huge red flag. But I mean, well, somebody knew back then, but just like today, most medical professionals don't know. They surely didn't know then. There's a few now you'll find that understand it, but nevertheless, tried everything. Finally wound up losing 125 pounds so far, and still going. Still have a ways to go. I probably need to lose another 50, maybe another 60, maybe another 75. I don't know. I won't know till I get there. Nevertheless, I'm not a medical professional, and I don't pretend to be. And this isn't specific weight loss or dietary or medical advice for you. It's simply my opinions and my personal experiences. So please keep that in mind. Subscribe to us on social media. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. That works no matter where you're looking at. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat. Add me on all of those, Fat Guy Podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. You can get episodes when they come out, of course. But you can easily scroll back and see previous episodes, which is probably the best reason that you want to subscribe. So if you're already a podcasting person and you listen to podcasts on whatever device you use, pretty much doesn't matter what device or what software you use, you can search for Fat Guy Podcast and you'll find us because we're on Apple Podcasts and we're on the Google Play Store. If you don't understand podcasting or it seems daunting to you, don't let it be. It's as easy as downloading the Spreaker app. I love the Spreaker app, Spreaker. It's the company I host the podcast with. Once you download it, just search for Fat Guy Podcast, hit the heart button, follow, like, subscribe. So not only will you see when new episodes come out, but you can easily scroll back and see previous episodes. And it's by far my favorite way to consume podcasts. I have so many. I'm not the only person on there. There's like thousands and thousands of other podcasts. So who knows what you'll find on the Spreaker app that you may like. We're going to talk about sweeteners today. I'm not going to try to get too technical, and I'm going to try to keep the podcast shorter. So I have found that I tend to go really long on podcasts that I even intend on being short. So podcasts that don't require a ton of length, I'm not going to get way into. That's going to be my goal. We'll see how it works out. The beautiful thing about podcasts is you can pause it and pick it up later. Sweeteners is what we're going to talk about. And this will apply to so many things because it doesn't matter who I work with trying to lose weight using a ketogenic way of eating. They all want to eat sweet stuff. They want recipes for sweets. And it doesn't matter how many times I try to tell people that you don't want to do that. If you do it, it needs to be super rare. I'd say at most weekly, less if possible. It's not just the carbs is the problem. It's years of being a sugar addict. You have been addicted to sugar pretty much your whole life. And you didn't know you were an addict because you thought sugar was a food and you thought it was normal and safe to eat, and it's not. It's not a food, it's a drug. And you've been consuming a drug. Imagine a crack addict or a meth addict or cocaine addict or whatever who has literally been doing that stuff their whole life since they were 5 or 6. And suddenly they're 25 or 30 or 35 or 40. And the effects of doing that is caught up with them and they need to stop it, and they stop it. And your advice to them is, we'll do something that gives you a very similar effect to the cocaine. It won't be quite as good. It'll be like 90% as good. And we'll give you can have that whenever you want. How long do you think that would work? It wouldn't work very long. It's going to flood back their mind, their brain, their memories, their body with all these, memories of the drug they were addicted to. They're going to be right back on it. And the same definitely applies to real sugar. Boy, it's tough. Now, does that mean I've never eaten any kind of sugar and stuff since I started keto 14, 15 months ago? No, of course I have. I decided to do Thanksgiving. I decided to do Christmas. I did my birthday. I did a week-long thing after my mom passed away. I just recently was in Vegas for 3 or 4 days. And so it happens. It certainly shouldn't be a goal. And it certainly shouldn't be something that happens very often because it's hard to get over. I was talking to a friend of mine the day before yesterday. They carved out for a day and then it turned into 2, and now they can't get back on keto no matter how hard they try. Well, they could, obviously, but I understand what they're saying. It is hard, and it just kind of, and you don't like it, you hate it. It's just like being an addict. Look, sugar is just like being an addict. Once you've been off it and you see how good you feel on a keto way of eating, and you see how much weight you lose and how much better your body works, how much better you sleep, and how much clearer your mind is, you know that it's a superior way of eating, but you're still a sugar addict. Your brain is still addicted to sugar, and the second you go back to it, you'll be off the wagon, and it is so hard to get back away from it, even though you hate it. When I was in Vegas, God, I hated it. The only time I felt good was when I was putting the pecan pie in my mouth and chewing it and swallowing it, or the cheesecake. 5 minutes later, I felt horrible. And then the whole rest of the trip, I felt horrible. God, my muscle aches came back. Joint pain came back. My inability to sleep came back. The brain fog came back. The lethargy came back. I didn't have the energy. It was just, all the digestive problems, just everything came back. And I'm like, why am I doing this? So there are not artificial. I don't want to use the word artificial. That's not right. Sugar substitutes is the word I should be using. So you're going to be familiar with some of them. You're going to be familiar with the pink packet and the yellow packet for sure. You'll probably be familiar with Stevia. You may not be familiar with things like Maltitol. You may not be familiar with xylitol. And you may not be familiar with erythritol. Those are all classified as sugar alcohol. Erythritol, xylitol, and maltitol are all considered sugar alcohol. So what is that? Well, it's a sugar that isn't absorbed by the digestive tract, and it gets passed right through the system in your pee, generally speaking. I did read that I believe xylitol gets caught in the digestive system and consumed by your gut microbiome, your gut bugs that we all have, or at least some of it does. Stevia, or some people say stevia, that comes from a leaf. That's a natural thing. Monk fruit also comes from, is all natural. And then, of course, you're familiar with the pink and yellow packs. I'm not going to say the brand names. Nevertheless, you know what they are. Those are not natural. Those are artificial. So those are your sweetening choices. So first thing I want to talk about is dextrose, and most words, with the exception, I think, of sucralose. Sucralose is an artificial product. With the exception of sucralose, pretty much anything that ends in ose is a sugar. Lactose in milk, that's a sugar. Dextrose, that is a sugar. So I would invite you to look on the back of that yellow pack. I'm not going to say the name of it. And to see what the number one ingredient is. So this is not sugar, right? This is a sugar substitute. See what the first ingredient in a yellow pack is dextrose. The number one ingredient in the non-sugar sweetener is sugar. The secondary ingredient that there's less of is going to be the artificial sweetener. So when you have these powdered sweeteners, you'll find they'll do that a lot. You'll find they do it with stevia. So if you go to your store and you buy powdered stevia, or so that it kind of works like regular sugar, look at the back and see if it has dextrose in it. Oftentimes, most times I'd say it will. Now there is some There is some plain, pure stevia that you can buy. So if you're going to buy that, buy it. But when it comes to things like stevia, monk fruit as well, monk fruit can fall victim to this. It's better to get the drops for those because you never really see much in there other than just what you're trying to get in the drops. But you can find it in the powdered form as well. You just have to look. So let's talk about which one of these are acceptable and completely non-acceptable. So the yellow packs. Does that mean I can never have the yellow packs? Well, you can make it fit, but I would say you should never have more than 2 to 3 of those yellow packs a day because they are sugar. It's a very small amount of sugar. So let's say you use 2 packs to sweeten your cup of coffee in the morning and that's all you use. That's fine. Let's say you use 2 packs with your coffee and you use a pack to 2 packs with your tea at lunch. Could you get away with that? Probably. That'd be about it though, man. That's at the upper max range. What would be better to do is to buy either a stevia drops or monk fruit drops. And the ultimate is a stevia monk fruit blend. So stevia is the sweetest and really tastes more like sugar to start with. But then it polishes off bitter. So you get that bitter aftertaste. That's the problem with stevia. That's why a lot of people don't like it. Monk fruit doesn't quite taste like sugar, but it is a clean, nice, beautiful sweet all the way through. Monk fruit is my favorite, by the way, in case you want to know. I'll just drop that off now. So what you'll find now is these blends, these stevia monk fruit blends. And for my liquids, if I am going to sweeten a liquid and drink it, which I don't do often, basically I just sweeten my keto lemonade with it, which you'll find in a previous podcast if you want to go back and listen to it. That's pretty much all I use it for, but occasionally I'll sweeten some other things with it. It's a stevia monk fruit blend, so they blend the two together, so you get the beautiful sweet, and you don't get the aftertaste, and it's just fantastic, and there's no glycemic index with them. The brand I buy is called Easy Sweets. Easy Sweets. I think Sweets has a Z on the end too. Not sure. Easy Sweets. You'll know the container. It's orange. It's a little egg, almost egg-shaped container with an orange wrapper around it. I get mine off Amazon. So erythritol and xylitol is usually used for cooking sweets because it's like sugar. So both of them are pretty good. Erythritol is the best. For most people, erythritol has no glycemic index to it. It won't spike your insulin if it does. I mean, anything you eat is going to spike insulin a little bit, but it's super minimal, or not blood sugars, I should say. Xylitol is dangerous for animals. If you have animals around the house, you either need to be very careful where you keep it or just use erythritol. I don't like xylitol. I've tried it. It's not for me. But look, it's a personal taste thing. You may like it. If you don't have plants, it'd be great. Or plants. If you don't have animals, it'd be great. That's fine. I think erythritol is probably better. Erythritol is safe for animals. It really has a great consistency like sugar. It almost works 1-to-1 in place of sugar. As a matter of fact, if you do it as a 1-to-1 replacement for sugar, your stuff will be a little bit less sweeter, which is good. If you're a keto person, you should like less sweet. You don't need the level of sweet you used to like. So, I mean, that's my number one recommendation is erythritol. So if you're trying to cook up a keto cookie or a keto, I don't know, cupcake, erythritol is the way to go. So those are my two recommendations for the liquid drops for putting in drinks and stuff. You either want to get stevia or a stevia monk fruit blend. Monk fruit by itself is way expensive. It's just way expensive. But when they blend it with stevia, I mean, it's still more expensive than stevia, but it's not so expensive that it's cost prohibitive. The last one I'll talk about is Maltitol. You're probably not going to be able to buy Maltitol, but you want to look for it. First of all, you shouldn't buy any of these keto products in the store. The main ones I'll talk about is Atkins, but there's other ones out there. I'll give you a great example. I spotted sugar-free Reese's peanut butter cups in Cracker Barrel, and I nearly flipped my lid. Holy crap, you mean I might could have Reese's peanut butter cups again? Because in my opinion, they are by far the best sweet I ever ate. Like, it doesn't get better than Reese's peanut butter cups. So I grabbed the package and looked at it, And not only was maltitol what was used to sweeten it, maltitol was the number one listed ingredient. It had more maltitol in it than it had anything else in it. So let's talk about maltitol. Maltitol is another one of those sugar alcohols that we talked about. But unlike erythritol and xylitol, maltitol does spike your blood sugar. There is an insulin response. And its glycemic index, which measures the effect that a food has on your blood sugar. Its glycemic index is like 80% that of what sugar is. And when you consider that it's 80% as sugar, as sweet as sugar, and you have to use 20% more to get the same sweetness as sugar, at that point it has the identical glycemic index. Even if you use it at the 80% level, it's still spiking your blood sugar like crazy. But if you're using it and you want to make something as sweet as it was when you cooked it with sugar, and you have to overcompensate because it's only 80% as sweet, then you're getting the exact same glycemic index as sugar. Maltitol is horrible. It's horrible that companies like Atkins and other ones use it and pass it off as sugar-free. And I was even looking on that package of the sugar-free Reese's peanut butter cups I found. And at the bottom, it even said down there with an asterisk behind it, and I believe it was the background behind it was highlighted in yellow so it would stand out. Maltitol is a sugar alcohol. Sugar alcohols are not digested in the same way as sugars are, so they pass through your system with no effect on blood sugar. No, that's not true at all. Maltitol is horrible for blood sugar. And while I haven't purchased it and tried it personally, because I do test my blood sugar on nearly everything I eat, especially for the first time, because I want to know. I haven't personally done that because I already knew about it, and I didn't want to waste the money trying to find some maltitol. But I can tell you there's numerous keto people I know that have YouTube channels that have all tested their blood sugar after eating maltitol, and for every single one of them, it shot their blood sugar through the roof. So I know without a fact. High Flute Low Carb did it. Keto Connect did it. I'm not going to try to run through the whole list, but I've seen numerous people do it, and they all had the same result. Does not necessarily happen with erythritol or xylitol, and you won't really see it with stevia or monk fruit either. So those are the ways to go. I honestly have never seen a test on the yellow packet or the pink packet. But I read some research on the pink packet, and I think it spikes your blood sugar as well. I see no reason why the yellow packet wouldn't either. I mean, the number one ingredient in it is a sugar. It's dextrose. It has more sugar in it than anything. So I don't know why it wouldn't spike your blood sugar. But maybe I'll buy some of that and test it. I think I might get a small enough box or container, or maybe I'll steal some. That's a bad word to use. Maybe the next time I'm at a restaurant, I'll snag a few and tip them extra or what. I don't know. And try a test on it and see. It'd be interesting to know for sure. So there you go. There's my thoughts on sugar alcohols. Those are the ones I think you could get away with having, and those that you probably should stick far away from. That being said, you should stay away from all of them for as long as possible. Only consume them when you feel overwhelmed, like you must have something sweet, and that the only other alternative is that you go off keto and consume sugar. And so it's used as a way to save you, because once you have that sweet stuff, I'll give you a great example. Coke Zero. I love Coke Zero. Coke Zero is amazing. Will cause me to have sugar cravings like I'm a fiend. One Coke Zero. Does that mean I never have them? No, I still have one. But there for a while, I was drinking them every day. I got off on it so bad, I was drinking them every day. And I was like, whoa, gosh, you're off on this addiction train again. And so now I'll have them once or maybe twice a week. And I bought the little cans, They're like, what are they, like 8 ounces? Those little tiny cans. That's what I bought, and that's all of it I'll drink. And I don't let it get out of control. And I have them very rarely. Look, you have to understand, if you understand that you're addicted to something and that anything that even tastes like it will send you off the rails, then you'll know what to do. Like, you won't need my advice. You won't need a book. You won't need some kind of chart. You won't need some kind of guru. Treat your sugar addiction the same way you would recommend your friend who was addicted to cocaine treat their cocaine addiction. Thank you so much for listening today. You don't know whose life you might change by sharing this. I say this every episode, and very few people share it. And I'm like, I don't know why people don't share it. Maybe they're ashamed for people to know that they're listening to a weight loss podcast. Maybe they don't know how to share it. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. But I wish more people would share. It's not because I'm an attention hog or anything. It's because I want to help people. I want to help as many people as possible. And I know the podcast will help because that's the way I found keto and that's how I got help. So share and like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. And look, you can add us on the social media. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. And that's pretty much whatever social media you like. And then download the Spreaker app so you can know when the new episodes come out and scroll back and see old ones. And if you already listen to podcasts on your favorite podcasting app, that works too. Just subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next episode. Thanks a lot.